So the very first thing I record is Matt saying he's born ready. He's just getting old and fat.
Yes. Well, that's
Do you know what's so badly? I thought he said he had to hold in his fat.
No, that's
Because he
me.
was on-
I was born ready. I got old and fat, is what I said.
You see,
I did the English.
I thought it was a camera thing, like you were sucking it in.
Shit bollocks. I don't need all that much black.
see, that's the problem with droppers. You know, good old GW paint pot will never drop that much. That'll open a can of worms.
No, it's paint, not worms.
Depends how bad it's dried.
Spaghetti.
What was I about to paint black? Oh, that man's hair. Not the man, he's a zombie.
Anyway, hello to anyone who's actually going to watch this. It's very nice for you to come back. This is kind of a... I think Conrad's having a moment. This is going to be a mini second episode. What we're doing is just catching up.
That's a harsh, Lee. Just because Matt's on there, it's no need to go mini second episode, is it?
I think this is
average height for a man in this country. I'm 5'10", which is the average height of a man person in the UK. So I'm just saying, I'm not a dwarf, and you can both fuck off.
Other than that, are we all right?
Look at me, I'm painting still.
Yeah, you see, that's my theory of why there's only three of us.
Why?
Well, how are we going to, ridicule you when you're ahead on your painting challenge already?
Do you think that's why Mike is having a wank and Joel is interfering with his children? I mean, not sexually, because he's doing like school reports or something.
Yeah, no, he's going through stuff with his was it his youngest boy?
One of his chaps, one of his youngsters, siblings,
younglings,
offsprings,
children.
I think he's getting the because it's not up to date, you know. That's it. No sweeties, no Roundtree's fruit pastel treats during the week, no pocket money.
Glue again. Are you on glue? What the hell are you on about?
Sorry, no frog pills today.
Is that what it is? Bum, 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 bum. So what are you two up to? Are you painting as well?
No, I've got models out to show using the technology of the interwebs and the cameras.
Conrad's?
What?
Yeah.
Have you got two cameras?
I have. Not satisfied.
What's that easy to set up, and not you haven't just spent the 15 minutes or 20 minutes uploading drivers and having to switch off and switch on again? Is it going to be completely seamless?
I don't know. Don't think it'd be seamless, but I think it could work.
You think?
Should we try it?
Go for it. Oh, he's gone.
He's gone. You see, this is where what I actually do is I pause the video and put a technical difficulties bit, and 2 hours later Conrad comes back.
Take that long anyway, judging by what's occurring.
Yeah. No,
what colour should my hillbilly zombie trucker have? What colour hair?
Red.
I did wonder whether he should be a bit of a ginger hick.
Yeah. No, unlike other people, I've only actually managed to apply paint on one model, and I don't like what I did, so I kind of lost the heart of it.
Yeah.
I haven't really had much time for painting or doing stuff. I undercoated the Nurgle team. And
what's that whole team?
Yeah. Obviously, I've got the 3 test models I painted last year, and then I started to...
In like 20 minutes.
Yeah. Oh,
look, Conrad's finger. Didn't take long at all. Well done, Conrad.
And look,
it's ridiculous. I need to take the glasses off the paint and then put them on to find the coloured paint I want.
Conrad, that's Matt's view of you.
You can see up my nostrils now.
Oh, mustn't laugh.
See your junk. Dwarf.
This is what I've been painting. This.
So have you painted those dwarfs then, Conrad?
No, so the story behind these dwarves is when I was
Story.
contracting back in Y2K times, earning lots of money, I actually paid for pro-painted dwarves then. They were very expensive, and this was my Fancy Battle Dwarf Army. They were painted by a guy called Andrew Taylor, who paints for Foundry and lots and lots and lots and lots of people. And he's still painting. And because I now play Kings of War, they were on bases like this.
Yeah.
Slaughter bases. So
Old school square slaughter
look
bases.
at that, look.
20 mil square slaughter bases.
So my initial Kings of War is obviously on multi-bases. So my initial attempt was rare earth magnets on magnetic movement
Fabo type
bases,
things.
yeah. And I thought, no, I want to do proper terrainy type, scenic type bases. So this is where I am with my next unit. Unfortunately, these figures and this army is 20. What year are we in? 2021.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Yes.
They've got to be 20 years old. So many Fancy Battle events and taking them on tournaments where you have to pick every figure out, put them into the movement tray, all that shenanigans. So a lot of wear and tear. So they've taken a little bit of a battering. So I'm touching up dwarves. Think of
Matt,
that.
run.
What you may.
Funny enough,
yeah.
that's also a specialist category on X-Hamster.
So this is my first unit, and I'll tell you what, actually completing it was quite a special feeling.
I have to admit, I am a fan of that kind of element type basing. I had a little play with Kings of War second edition. I liked it. I mean, it's not exactly groundbreaking, and they're not the most complex set of rules, and there is indeed a bucket of dice. This is entirely the wrong orange for orange hair. But they're quite nice. But I do like that element basing style. When we were doing some historical gaming, I had a look at Impetus, which again has got that same, single base of troops is the whole unit, and there's no casualty removal. You just track the combat effectiveness. I do like that whole mini diorama approach you can have, which is why I was tempted by Kings of War again recently.
It's really nice when you remove something, you take it off, and it's great when you're packing up and putting away because you just take these elements out as they are. That's what they're called.
Yeah.
One of the things with Kings of War is that you're meant to pivot around the centre of the unit. So I have put this little tree stump in the middle so I can actually pivot the thing over there. And on my next unit, the standard bearer's right in the middle, so I can pivot on the standard bearer. But started working on the organ gun and a pack of dogs.
That can't have been your idea. Was that somebody else's idea?
It was actually my idea, would you believe?
No, I don't believe.
And then the other thing that I've been doing is I have been painting these, and thanks to you guys, I've actually put some stuff on their bases to make them a little bit more
interesting.
Yeah,
yes,
they just looked a bit plain to start with. I mean,
look at that Albert Einstein Time magazine cover on Doc Octopus's base.
yeah,
That's funny.
Where is it? Where did I put all my bits and bobs for? You're probably not going to be able to see because, like I said to you two earlier, my camera sort of focuses about where my hand is. So, but when I did Venom, I don't know if you can see the base there. Venom had one of the
Long
bits.
way away.
Yeah, no, it's a long way away. I'll put a picture on with it. But all I've done is I've put all dirt and stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can see
So
it. Yeah.
where he's got where he's actually got his foot on a piece of the moulded rubble, I've made it more rubble around it, and then I'm going to tuft it up and put a few other bits and bobs on it. It was just so it doesn't look like suddenly there's a big piece of concrete sitting on a slab, which yours just looked like basic bases until you started toughening and putting the bits on, didn't they, Conrad?
Well, there is actually texture on them, but it's not. You can't really see it probably because of the light. But they've got depth because of the wash and the highlight. But then I've actually, after varnishing, I've put city dirt pigment on it, so there is a more variation. But
Cool.
the tufts, and I've obviously got these little bits of moss in here as well to try and help things.
Yeah, so
out as well.
Yeah,
But it gives it variation, as you said. And then there's my lovely
that slab of grey, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look at my lovely Captain America
shield.
Yeah, I'm looking at it and I'm touching myself. If that makes you feel any better.
That's just
Stop waggling it around.
So that's what I've been up to.
Battery low.
I'm going to go back to normal
Good.
camera now, rather than up my nose.
That's fair enough. It's typical. As soon as we start talking, I get a battery low on my headphones. Wait a minute.
It's all going horribly wrong, Glenn.
Charging battery.
No, I've been struggling to paint, to do anything like that. I've been playing a fair amount on PC. An awful lot of Warhammer Total War.
What was I saying? That Total War.
Yeah.
Is it Total War?
It is. I'm actually
Not
doing.
Totally War.
I've actually decided. There's a couple of YouTube channels, and one of the things that one of the guys used to do on one of the YouTube channels is he'd do a Total War. So every time he meets a new faction, he declares war on it. So as soon as he sees it, he just declares war. So it is true Total War, and I've been trying that with a few different races, and he's better than I am because he manages to make it last like a 7-hour video. I last sometimes 3 or 4 turns.
I have heard you don't last very long.
Yeah.
Better bush.
But actual paint wise, because we're not playing, I mean, we touched on this before, but because we're not playing, I just can't get any.
No mojo.
Yeah, no mojo to paint and stuff. No mojo to thing. I got the I waited to get assault intercessors for the Space Wolf army, so I got them for Christmas, and I think I've made one. Yeah. Who are they? Yeah, no.
You got on there. Hang on. Do it again so I can see. Oh, fuck off. Your old man music.
But I want to. I'm going to split the assault unit to a normal 5, which is just going to be normal assault ones, which will have
Space Wolves.
Yeah, Space Wolves. So that they'll be Space Wolfed a little bit, and then you can now, unlike before, where you had to spend CPs to to make veterans, you can actually, take veterans out of the codex now. So obviously, veterans in Space Wolves are Wolf Guard. So I want to sort of really wolf up 5 and have them.
You still have like that mixed unit with like a Terminator and stuff in.
If you use the Space Wolf supplement, you can do that to some of the older style units, so like the Blood Claws, the Grey Hunters.
They always used to be able to have those weird units where you'd have like some Marines and a Devastator dude in there and a Terminator fella.
You could
Great companies or whatever they were.
Kind of, not with Space Wolves, because Space Wolves, the only time they ever had any special or heavy weapons were when you put a Longfang pack in. So you had the one pack, which was because obviously with the Space Wolves, they're young and impetuous when they're Blood Claws, then they mellow to become Grey Hunters. Those that become older.
So are we Grey Hunters then? Because we're old and mellow.
Well, we'd be Longbeard, Longfangs, which are the older ones who.
Longbeard is about right.
Actually, you look like one, Matt. You do look like.
It's getting a bit scraggly.
Yeah,
it's the whole. I've got the whole COVID haircut thing.
The whole
looming,
world.
I think.
The whole world in your hands.
So
yes.
So I've got them, and I've got the green stuff. I even bought new green stuff. I bought grabbed a few extra Wolfie bits from different kits off eBay. So I've got stuff
What
sitting
colour
there.
green stuff did you get?
What colour green stuff?
Yeah,
I went for green, but
Is it
don't
green?
worry, I'll paint it grey so it looks like I've not painted anything.
excellent.
And
I
then
thought that was,
You
I
didn't
thought
give
that
that
was a
bugger
trick.
all then.
I thought that was a trick question from him. Then
It was a trick question. I just couldn't be asked to follow it through.
no, so the only thing I've done is obviously the I converted a Beast of Nurgle for the Rot Spawn for the
Your Blood Bowl fellas.
Blood Bowls, and I've sculpted on a shirt or tattered remains of a shirt, and I've painted him up, but I'm just not happy with the way it looks. And I'll go back and I've
Is
not.
it shit?
Pardon?
Do you think it looks shit?
Yeah.
So I thought it was all right.
Yeah, I thought it was okay as well. To be fair.
Yeah, I know. It's okay. Do you know what I mean? I'm not happy with the colours. I haven't gone in and I haven't put a load of washes and glazes over, so like the bruising and all that kind of stuff in yet.
Again. Yeah.
So, but
So are you just gonna add to it and tinker with it then?
yeah, I'll do what I usually do. I'll just keep going, and its tentacles will go from pink to green to blue to pink, and that'll be back to where it was to start with. But you won't actually be able to see any of the details then, less the highlight.
The other thing I've done is I think all my AOM Arabian Nights forces properly based now on MDF,
Yeah.
and has got some textured filler on it. The idea is I'm going to try and undercoat them before the end of the month. We at the club, on the Facebook page, we have a hobby vows type thing every month, and it kind of spurs us on. It's pretty much like we used to do, basically, amongst ourselves. But I've actually tried to keep. I think I've done most of what I'm trying to do this month as well. The AOM thing is to actually get some paint on it. So if I get undercoat on it, that counts as part of the vow.
Yeah.
This Kings of War stuff is extra. I did actually say I'd finish my Night Stalkers now that I've got the crushed glass and I haven't got them out. I'm actually enjoying doing the dwarves so much. And I've pulled out Hulk.
Many Kings of War army, the Night Stalkers.
Say again?
Weird demon kind of army in not in Kings of War.
Yeah, it's like the things that are in the corners of your eyes or in the cupboards or under your bed type thing. They're shadowy, demony things from another time.
Neverborn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Kind of thing.
Kind of stuff the Dreamer would have brought in.
Myths and legends and all of that kind of thing.
So I want to. I've got all the stuff to finish that off now, but I need to spend some time. I'm actually really enjoying dressing bases a lot. I bought this off eBay.
The glasses on again. Show me what.
That's right.
Do you think it's Viagra?
No.
Is it there?
Oh, for your static grass thing.
Yeah, and
is it tragic that I immediately knew what that was?
Yeah.
That's for making really high-tech cups of tea.
Exactly right. So I tried using it, and what one of my club mates said to me,
"Electric shock."
You spoiler. Basically, the answer to that question is yes, and fucking hell, that hurts. I've always wrongly thought that 1.5 volt batteries, because it's only got 2 AA's in there. Not going to hurt, but it's the current that hurts, obviously, not the voltage. So, yeah, it did hurt.
Yeah.
I did it twice just to check as well, Matt.
I was just taking the piss for comic effect. I didn't actually think that you would have been able to give yourself a shock.
Oh, no,
I assume it just generates some static electricity to make your positively charge your grass or whatever so it stands up.
Yeah, I haven't properly used it. I then discovered that the little piece of A5 copied paper that you get has got a YouTube link. So I went to the YouTube video and watched it. So I'm going to give it a proper go, because the first time I did it, it didn't work basically. But I've got my nail now. Got my nail ready to put in the area so that it can, because I was using
I've got this, and I put whatever it is that I need to flock into there, and I go like that, and that's it.
This is what I used to do. I used to put the flock on, turn it upside down, and then go, and that worked generally. But
but you get
not all
the static grass everywhere.
Yeah, I was gonna say then you're walking it into the rest of the house, aren't you?
Yeah, and it's in your keyboard and everything. But I've always wanted one. I didn't want to spend. It's true what they say. You pay for what you get, type thing. So if you're going to go buy one of those like £100 ones,
Or do they say you get what you pay for?
I was going to say that it might be that. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe.
You pay for what you get. Yeah.
You get what you pay for, Conrad.
Yeah.
That's true as well.
One of those things. It's like they say.
Oh, don't make me laugh. It hurts.
Oh yeah, because you've had a tooth out today, haven't you?
Yeah, no. At the moment, I'm trying to talk, and I've got a whole load of gauze still stuffed into the side of my mouth.
Are you that side on the video,
No.
or are you down here?
No, I'm the other side.
You're over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Like
I mean,
orange hair.
the big static grass machines, they're like £100, but
Yeah.
I don't use it enough to justify that sort of money, sort of thing, you know. So.
But then they're for the proper knobby railway types, aren't they? That are doing great big setups.
But then again,
meant to knobby railway types.
I don't know, possibly a bit.
But then again, you can make tufts with them as well, though, can't you?
I suppose you could do, because you just drop some hot glue down or glue, and then chuck it in there.
Oh gosh, how did they do it? I saw someone do it before. Was it they did it with like a greaseproof paper, a little bit of white glue?
Yeah.
And then did it over that, and then it
the
just
whole thing.
Yeah.
It creates the mould.
Yeah. So
my luck, I'd probably electrocute myself on the foot. I'd use foil or something, wouldn't I? And
yeah, come on. I need to set myself some sort of painting challenge. I think that's the thing, because obviously Matt's doing his, which we'll speak about later or in a bit.
We could talk about it as well.
Look, don't
take the piss out of him. You pay for what you get, what you pay for.
Yeah. And this is free.
Was your dental work free?
Was it hell?
I had some dental work last week, actually. I had a bit of a dentist episode.
Well,
I haven't been. I'm not currently registered for the dentist because I
had that taken out
of dental work.
Is that green stuff?
No, that's...
What colour is it?
That is actually your tooth.
Yeah, that's my tooth.
Tooth, as they say in...
Tough, yeah, no,
in the black country.
Yeah, no, it's, I have to self-certificate for not being at work today. So, I thought, I'll take the tooth and I'll say, there you go. And you need to see the big gap with all the gauze sticking out of it as well.
They might want to try and
test it. Not the first time you've tried to show your cavity to get ahead in a job, is it?
But they might want to test fit the tooth, because that could be like anyone's tooth. Lee.
Yeah, you could have just stolen that.
Yeah, I could.
From some poor, innocent, homeless man.
Do you know, if I needed a tooth next time, I'll do that. Then, you know, go through what I've just gone through to get this one out.
Yes, so I think you should set yourself a goal.
You see...
Don't play so much Total War. That's a good goal.
That's a good goal.
But you see, this is a stupid thing, isn't it? It was an on-joke last time about the GPU stuff, and now obviously I've got the new graphics card in my computer.
Oh, so there's that is yours now, is it?
Not that one.
Oh, okay. Not the accident one.
Not the accident one. I had to sell that.
Not the one that nearly caused divorce.
I don't know what you mean.
I don't want that paint. I want the other
do you know the worst bit? I bought exactly the same card and it was £60 cheaper.
For you.
Yeah. Well, no, then waiting it. The company I bought it for just put the price up from what I originally said I wanted it. I sort of went on the list to say yes, as soon as one comes available, stick it on my account type thing. But I didn't realise that they are allowed to put the price up, which they
Well,
are
it's a bit
apparently.
naughty.
Yeah, it is. Well, there's been a lot of things about that for PC gaming and stuff like that, because the new cards are rarer than rocking horse shit, I believe the word was put to it the other
Rarer
day.
than toilet rolls at the start of lockdown.
Yes.
You pay for what you get, though.
You
No.
do.
3-ply or not.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of bits and bobs that I could actually do without sort of. I mean, I suppose the easiest thing to do would be to finish the 25 power unlisted power changed after the FAQ. Change the do the points for the Harlequins, because I've only got. I think I'm about halfway through painting the Harlequins for 40k.
I remember you doing quite a bit on them because they're the ones you did with the white face mask and stuff, aren't they?
No, the gold face mask, but they're just white and black checks.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, I knew there was something to do with white in there.
Yeah, so if again, you won't see it. I'll put a picture up there. You sort of can't really see anything before at all, can you? No. So they're sort of diamond.
I am not looking.
And
B,
B,
I haven't got my glasses on.
Yeah, no. So the whole point is, instead of being highly coloured, their troop is just pretty much black and white.
Right.
And then they've got some checks on them. So I kind of quartered them up and I've painted them. And what I decided to do was, for squad recognition, since they're all going to roughly be the same, but not even the whole squad's the same. So I've swapped legs, swapped arms, done it all. So the only thing that keeps the squads together are the first squad I've done have blue and yellow ribbons, because each Harlequin has 2 ribbons coming off him. So I thought I'll do blue and yellow on one squad, and blue and red on a second squad, and then red and yellow on a third, and slowly build up the troops that way.
Yeah.
And then things like I've already done the solitaire. So the solitaire's just got a pure white coat with purple ribbons, and the bodysuit is entirely black. And they've all got gold. Any metal-y bits are sort of gold. And they came out quite nicely, and they are 80% contrast paints.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I was very impressed. First time I used contrast paints, I didn't think much of them at all. The second time, I cleaned the model down, I sprayed it bare, I used the proper contrast. What's the colours? The Wraithbone.
Sarah Wraithbone.
Yeah. So I used
There's another one. There's 3, isn't it?
Well, there's Grey Seer.
Wraithbone's the other one. I'm sure there's another one as well.
And there's another one, Chaos Black, but apparently the paints don't show up so well on that one.
Yeah. Well, you pay for what you get, really, don't you?
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah, and what you get, you pay for, hopefully. So I sort of, for the whites, because there's the whites that I like the most, because is it the whatever the white contrast paint is?
Apothecary. Some here.
Medic white.
Yeah, apothecary. I can't fucking say it.
Apothecary white.
Apothecary.
Yeah.
Apothecary.
Yes.
Yes.
Apothecary. Yeah.
But what I found was, if you spray the models with the Wraithbone, do the Apothecary white, then do the base. Yeah. Then block out the base colours again with Wraithbone, and then go back to whatever the white is for GW. Corax. I think it's Corax white. I just highlighted them with Corax white.
My paint knowledge.
Yeah. Corax white is the other undercoat.
There's 2. There's Corax white, and
then
but there's
Corax white was the original. I'm not sure if that was designed for the.
That's the kind of grey white, isn't it? And then you've got that's Corax, and then you've got ceramite white.
Yes.
But I don't know if that's still a thing or not.
No. Because I think I was talking to you about on Twitter, Matt, saying about how I was painting something the other day, and I painted it black, and it's a different black.
Yes. Yeah, well, I've got some of that Corvus black just here. Look, there it is.
Yeah.
Which is in effect exactly the same as my Vallejo black grey. So
yeah, which is a very nice colour, because that's what I used for the Wolfguard. No, not the Wolfguard. The Space Wolf Chaplain. Because I didn't want a pure black. I wanted a very dark grey.
Then you can shade it, can't you?
Yeah. So I shaded it and then highlighted it with Dark Reaper, which is the kind of blue, very dark bluey sort of. No, that's the Segadon in it. Or I'm thinking of. Whichever one. I did it. I sort of edge highlighted it with all that. But I think I think I might see if I can figure out. Bear with me. I'm just shelf shopping to see how much I've got to do.
Most of those MCPs are done originally in contrast. The bases are done in proper acrylics, but then quite often I'll add acrylics to the contrast, and sometimes I'll end up potentially replacing part of the contrast paint areas with proper acrylics as I'm building up highlight, and then I go, do you know what? Let's pull it all together by putting a glaze stroke, a medium wash over it, sort of thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you say adding to it, I'm taking it you mean you like base coat it in the contrast.
Oh no, absolutely. But the big thing is when I first started with contrast, and I'm sure you found this as well, Lee, is that you got to learn how to play it. Just like normal paints, you've got to work out how to work with a paint and how to mix a paint to a particular level of mix. They always talk about like a milky like consistency, but that may not be what you use all the time. You might use a much thinner paint mix to give a tint to something, for instance. But and then the other thing is you've got to work with it quite quickly because it does dry quickly as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, once it starts to dry, you can't move it. I mean, it dries quicker than a wash, although it has some similar qualities.
Yeah,
once it dries or starts to dry, you can't move it around the same as you would a wash.
Because you end up with lines, don't you?
The sort of brush mark streakiness type of thing going on.
Tide marks, essentially.
That's the best way to put it. Yeah. No, I must admit, I found it difficult to start with, and I got used to it using it as, like we said, a wash. So the first colours I use it with were the pinks. So I do, I'd put a little bit down with the, and I found that if you use a Lamia medium, because most of my paint's GW stuff anyway, it doesn't do it so well. It sort of, it doesn't. It separates it, but it doesn't flow. It's even harder to control. But then I don't know who I was talking to. It was one of you guys said that there was a proper medium one. So I got the medium for the contrast, and since I've been using that, I thin it down. But what I do now is I paint a line of medium on my palette, and then I put the contrast in. And I'll paint that together, and then I'll mix them closer. So, like, the first line will be there, and the second line will veer off a bit. So I mix them, so that's thinner. So if I need it, I can thin But I've also been using that method with two different colours as well. So, like when I did the Death Guard, a lot of that was quickly base coated, and then I was putting two different contrast colours on with the same brush. And then sort of moving them around from that. The only thing I have noticed with contrast paint is don't it kill a decent brush quickly?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I don't know. I never use a decent brush on it because I'm only using. I mean, in effect, I'm using it at the moment pretty much as a thick wash.
Yeah.
So you won't be able to see, but they are sprayed with the Mephiston red, and then I've gone over them with the Flesh
Terrors. Terror red.
Flesh Terror red, and that gives me my base. And actually, it gives you the depth of colour. It gives is more than just the red wash over the Mephiston. And I know the GW sort of painting guides talked about I think it's Carenborg Crimson, the red wash. But I quite like the additional richness that it gives that base colour. And again, I've used some of the Black Templar black over Corvus as a shading process, and that's worked quite nicely as well. So
Yeah,
they're just tools in the box. I know when they first came out, everybody was, oh, it's
Woohoo,
like it's the new Null Noil or the new Agrax. And I think for some people and certain armies, absolutely, it allows you to paint things just using contrast and get stuff on a tabletop, because in effect it's giving you that whole base colour, first wash, and almost a faux highlight.
Yeah.
Which is fine. If you want to stop there, then that's absolutely fine. But it's a tool in the box for me. It gives me something between a paint and a wash. And in fairness, sometimes I've thinned down the contrast paint with a wash, so I'm not losing pigment, but I'm lowering the viscosity of it.
Yeah.
I think
I've just put red over the bit of white that I painted because I was talking to you and fucking waggling my arms around.
I think you're right. It's a tool. And you still have to have skills like brush control to use them effectively, because sometimes you do have to load your brush up quite a lot with the thing to get it onto the figure and move it about as quickly as possible, but also preventing pooling too much, because you end up with the tithe marks as well. But quite often you have to use, I use paint on whatever it is, the Wraithbone. I've got paint on Wraithbone to clean it up, to then go back and put another colour on, because it's inevitable that you go over the lines, as it were, paint outside the box.
Yeah. I'll tell you, sorry.
No, that was it, really.
Okay. I think if you're just painting with contrast, because I've done a few models now which have just been contrast. When I had the Death Guard before I sold them, all of the zombies, is it plague zombies they call them, or
40k plague poxwalkers.
Poxwalkers, that's it. They were done completely with contrast, and I thought they came out really well. If you're counting the Wraithbone as the contrast and metals, because I still use metallics, I'm not a fan of using the grey as the thing, but I'll use the grey to start with, and then I'll touch up with the metal afterwards. But what opened my eyes to the contrast more was I watch a fair amount of the Warhammer TV stuff, and I liked the way that they were using it. And when they first used it, it was this is contrast, and this is, so you've got contrast, or you've got the original method, or however they put it. It's even on their painting site. It was like, I can't remember how they worded it. And someone sent me a link, because I sort of said, I didn't think contrast was for me, and someone sent me a link on Twitter, and it was for to Justin's new painting pages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he was using contrast more, what we're talking about how to move it, how to change it, how, when you're painting it on, about how you do this, and it's worthwhile that when you do it, don't just slap it all on, work into an area. And then he put other colours, and he was mixing it. It was him that I think drew the line and mixed the different, so more medium in it, so it's a thinner, and you can go to whichever end of that line you need then if you need to block it out. So I started doing that, and I must admit I use it quite a lot now for most things. But on the Harlequins, other than the gold and the normal white highlight, every single part of them is of contrast of some sort. I must admit, there's a couple of times I've touched up the black, and I think I went over the black with whichever the very dark grey is. I can't remember off by heart. There's one of the no, much darker. There's like they're kind of they're an off grey, like oh Christ, I can't get to him because all my paints are behind without pulling all my stuff out at the moment. No, it's not actually a grey, Matt. It's like one of those really sort of dark. No, that's not.
Is it the black? It's not the black, is it?
No, it's not the black, and it's not the other one. But
whatever.
Like Dark
Whatever
Reaper,
it is.
whatever it's called, like Dark Reaper, and there's another one very similar to it, which I think is a bit darker. And I use them just to sort of
Bit darker Reaper.
yeah. What I would have used,
really dark.
what I would have
Shady
used,
dark.
what I would have used Vallejo's black grey on before, just to
Yeah.
highlight the So yeah, I think what I'll set myself is I've got 5 undercoated Harlequins.
Here it comes. Here it comes.
So I've got 5
By the end of Jan.
5 just base, they're pure undercoats. There's white and then there's. So that's my thing. I'll paint them.
We've still got a week and a half, really, haven't we? To be fair.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
If I can actually get some mojo going, I won't need a week and a half.
So one thing that I've observed with contrast paints is it rubs off. You were talking about touching stuff up, and I know that when I've handled stuff with contrast, it comes off.
Yeah, but I varnish everything anyway.
I have double varnished the MCPs with gloss and then with testers. So
Just
what is that?
That's the anti-shine matte varnish from Army Painter.
Yeah.
That's one of those ones. Or if I've actually got enough to do with the airbrush, just the Vallejo, which is the gloss one.
Ultra varnish matte. AK.
Ultra matte AK stuff.
Yeah.
It's a really watery. It's airbrush consistency, but it's what my last coat. No matter what I use, because most of them now are not giving a really matte finish. They're kind of satin. Even the anti-shine one, I find is kind of satin. That motherfucker makes things so matte that it is proper. It takes all of the shine. So any of the shine that you would associate with contrast paints and all that kind of stuff, it is a last really thin coat for matting stuff down.
But
I swear by
I'm
that.
guessing because it's AK, it's going to be.
No, I think it's 7. I think that was about 7 or 8 quid for however much is in there.
I use this.
What's that then?
It's the
testers.
It's the original. I have to brush it on, but it's what testers used to be.
Yeah.
This is airbrush consistency, so it is runny as fuck. But I just brush it on as a final cut. What are you varnishing your fucking floorboards?
That's what I use for heavy duty figures before varnishing with.
Do you not find like an elf becomes round though after you've used that and a 2-inch brush?
You break up. So this is a tip that I got from Jonathan Taylor York, who he actually now works for GW, but he's a great painter. And I use a little bit of that, break up the surface tension with a couple of drops of water, and it also slightly thins it. You wick away excess, but quite often the excess constricts anyway, and it needs 24 hours to dry, but it gives a good solid protection over it. And I've done all my MCP
using your figures for. Are you putting them in a sock and beating people to death with them?
I was just going to say, does that mean that you can walk on them without having to worry about it? Personally, I'm putting my stuff away quite nicely. Yeah, I mean, I've actually got. This is how sad it is. I've actually got a brush which is nothing more. It's an old. It's a GW large dry brush, and all it's used for is for varnishing. So I'll put a little bit of varnish down and I'll go over it. But for what you say about the glossy, even the shine matte, certain models I don't think it matters. Like the Harlequins, if they've got a little bit of kind of sheen to them, I don't think it hurts. The Space Wolves, I would have liked to get a lot matter, and the Undead, they came out really, really matte with the anti-shine stuff from Army Painter.
Before then, I was using the Vallejo spray varnish that they did, a matte spray varnish, the one with the white can with the blue Vallejo symbol on.
Yeah, there's one. That's not the spray-on one. That's the hand one. But I found that was waste of time. Oh, he's
Conrad's
gone.
got to go for a wee. He's got a can of it somewhere. No.
Do you know the words product placement's coming to mind?
It's not fucking Matt anymore. It's not like it used to be.
Those were the days, weren't they? Those were the days when you'd spray it and you go, God, that looks good.
I've got now with this brush on stuff. I did it on that zombie that I've shared on. That just had that final coat and it just matted everything and pulled it all. So I know sometimes you're painting stuff depending on your painting style, and you may want difference in sheen. You know, if you're doing some like shiny black leather, you might not want to matte that down. But I just sprayed my stuff all over her and then rubbed it in.
Yeah.
And she got a good coating of my matte all over her. And she really enjoyed it. She seemed appreciative and she's come up a treat.
One question then. If you've done like all blood and stuff, I mean, I know with the zombie it's a little bit different because it wants to be dried on and it wants to look like it's been there for a while. But if you were doing something, say, with the blood layers, would you put that? Would you just touch that with gloss varnish afterwards, or would you just leave it and say bollocks?
Because I use that the blood for the blood gold, they're technical paint, so I would put that on afterwards. If I wanted to have shiny blood, then I'd use that afterwards. And funny enough, that's what I'm going to use on this zombie who's got his gut half hanging out.
Yeah,
I'll finish him matte varnish, and then I'll just put a little bit on it just to give it that's
yeah,
a bit like with that Nurgle's pus stuff that you can do on the Death Guard. You could add that, just gives that sort of glossy.
Yeah, see that's one of the
look.
That's one of the things that I want to do with the rot spawn, but I just haven't gone into the parts of putting, like I'll put a ready wash around the holes and the sores, and then I'll put a little bit purple closer to it, just to make it look like it's all sore.
The other thing that I've dug out are these. So to touch up the dwarves, I thought, I don't know if I've got paints to do that. And then I thought, wait a minute, I've got my old GW paint. So out they came, the old hexagonal pots.
Good pots that GW made. I've got some of those here. Some colours in hexy pots.
I've opened probably, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 7 different paints.
Good.
They're all still fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've been using the bronze flesh and the dwarf flesh on the dwarves because that is the close colour, and I am actually amazed. Bone for a lot of the beards and things like that, and I just suddenly thought, oh, this bone colour's really nice.
Yeah.
Why haven't I been using this before?
But it's this thing. I mean, personally, I don't keep anything like that. I'm a bit sort of brutal. I'll throw all the old paints away once I start, and if I start to use different colours and stuff, I'll throw the old ones away.
The worst thing is, Lee, I've got a previous version of GW paints, or maybe it's a younger version. I don't know. The ones in the coat d'arms type.
Yeah, I've got some of those still.
Those are the original sets, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've still got those. Somewhere.
Yeah.
And
things like this. Here you go. Here's one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I've got the little bullets as well, the bullet bottles as well.
Yeah.
Last bit, has it got a date on it? No, it's not got a date on it, but the shiny silver spear staff prayer. Oh, the only thing is the lids start to get brittle.
Yes.
Actually, the plastic of the lid gets brittle and it'll break. But actually, this.
But you can buy lids, don't you?
Yeah, but that paint must be at least 30 years old, and it's as fucking good as the day it went in the pot.
Yeah.
Sad, really, isn't it? Sad that we...
Just out of curiosity, did anyone ever teach you guys to paint? Or to improve your painting?
No.
I'm still waiting for somebody to do that, if I'm honest, because it's ropey at best.
No, I'm just mean like... When I first started the game, many years ago, it was a little shop in Sheringham called Modelcraft, owned by a guy called Joe. And Joe was...
Did he invite you into his back room?
No, that was called Games of Space Hulk at Joe's house, and luckily I wasn't Joe's type. But
Okay.
you have.
What do you say? Come round my house, and I'm going to have a nasty monster run at you up your back corridor.
Was it Space Hulk? No, we played Space Hulk. It was Hero Quest. It might have been whatever it was. Anyway, luckily I wasn't in that.
We played Space Hulk. He played some other game.
No. Don't get me wrong. Before this goes back because Joe is a lovely guy, and I still speak to him when I see him in Norwich, and he's
Visiting days.
No, not visiting days. He was far too clever. Everyone was at least 16 at the time. No,
that's what they said anyway.
no, bless him.
He always asked for ID first.
He got me started on gaming and stuff because it was Blood Bowl. Have you seen the pictures of me with the really bad mullet playing Blood Bowl when I was 12? Yeah. That was all through Joel's.
Is that the one where you've got the Blood Bowl ball under your arm?
No,
it's really tiny. No, okay.
No, that's the one where it's the astrogranite pitch, the polystyrene pitch.
I had Marmite on mine.
Did you?
Quite tasty, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. But on a different thing, Joe was a phenomenal painter, and only a very small part of the shop was models. The rest of it was all GW stuff, and the rest of it was all proper models and model kits and some remote control stuff and all that things. But he was friends with. I'm just trying to think. I've got the guy's name right. Is it John Toyer? Who was one of the painters? He was featured a few times with heavy metal in the heavy metal pages in White Dwarf, but his stuff was always very pastel.
Mm-hmm.
So like his orcs, instead of being bright green like the GW orcs, they were kind of going down to a browny sort of a pale colour, and everything was very pasteled. And he was in there at one of the model centres, or one of the big shows that Joe or Modelcraft and two other model shops used to get together and sort of put on, and he came down and painted. And I always remember him saying, paint it the colours, the base colours, and then highlight down this way, and this way. And other than sort of sticking brown washes on it, it's the way I painted for a long, long time. I didn't know if there's anyone ever sort of influencing you guys, that's all.
I started gaming back in the olden days. It was historical gaming, so it was very much just fucking block base coloured type painting. This is in the years before washing, and in fairness, the guys I played with, you'd be lucky to see a dry brush amongst them. So it was really basic. So I obviously would be inspired by the heavy metal stuff in White Dwarf, but I certainly think back then it was that was stuff that you kind of looked at and felt inspired by. But personally, I thought, well, I'll never paint a model as good as that. But there was never technique stuff in White Dwarf, was it? It was always look at this as a finished product. Look at the Golden Demon Awards for this year, and I'd look forward to the Golden Demon White Dwarf when it came out to look at the stuff that people had done. So I think really the rise of Tinterweb and all of that kind of stuff, which has allowed people to put painting articles and YouTube and stuff like that. I mean, my painting in the last 10 years has probably advanced more, or even in the last 5 years has probably advanced more than it did in the previous 20, just through looking at stuff that people have done. I watched quite a lot of the Epic Duck Studio stuff, talking about your MCP, Conrad, because he was the one who was doing that comic style painting. And just watching those kind of tutorial videos, even if the whole style isn't something for you, but being able to pick up some of the techniques that people use. And again, he was the one, he put me on to that Corvus Black, the Games Workshop one. He says it's great for a black because it gives you somewhere to go downwards in shadow and shade.
Yeah.
He always calls it the washed out t-shirt black. He always says it's like a black t-shirt that's been through the wash half a dozen times. You've just got that little bit of loss of pigment. So you can use that as the natural highlight, and then if you want to just add an edge highlight or a little spot highlight, you can do. But it gives you somewhere to go with a shade, and that's why I've got this stuff here, which is the black ink that he uses in the comic book style stuff, because it's really pigment heavy and really easy with a tight brush to be able to use it to do some shadowing and some shading.
Pseudo blacklining even as well.
Yeah,
to
and I was about to say, to a degree, there is that black line, and I remember, probably 20 years ago, that was a distinct style. That whole every little block had a
Dallimore
black
style,
lining.
isn't it? Essentially,
Dallimore,
original.
yeah, I mean, back then, it was the done thing for a long time. You saw that, particularly in a lot of the historical stuff. There was this resurgence of this black line technique. Lots of Napoleonic stuff where you've got lapels and turnbacks and all of that. It was all getting black lines, and I was always, that's just. I'm not that committed to my painting that I can do it fast enough to get that quality.
But that's a technique in itself, because it's not only using black to line the different areas. It's actually using the previous colour to provide and painting to allow that boundary. Yeah. But no, I like you, Matt. I started with Airfix figures. I think it was. Yeah, probably. Probably some Hinchcliffe and minifigs type stuff, but
minifigs with the line drawn catalogue that was
exactly right. Yeah. So for me, I started with enamels, and it was literally block painting colours with enamels. There was no mixing or shading or anything like that, and it wasn't till I'd say my 30s, really, probably, I started to pick up a paintbrush in earnest properly, and by that time
easier back then because the war had just finished and rationing was coming to an end.
Just say you beat me to the joke. Then I was just
put the rifle away, because I couldn't paint with it, and I don't think really, because it's probably the last 20 years that I've started to up my game and win a few awards here and there and actually enjoy it. To the extent now that you start using tricks, don't you? You start to shortcut things to get quick results.
You find your own little bits and bobs. I mean, cause the other thing I've noticed is I was always quite happy to paint to a reasonable standard. And this is going to sound big-headed, conceited, but there we go. The people I played with before I played with Mike, Matt, and the guys at Aftermath and stuff like that, if they had painted, there was only one other person in our entire group who could paint even closely to me.
And you paint quickly and you paint well. You have an above tabletop standard look, I'd say.
Yeah, and what I find is that I can do that to a reasonable, high. It's hard to say because one person's high tabletop is another person's base coats, isn't it? But I paint to what I think is a reasonable standard, and I can take time. But the problem is when I take time, that's when instead of knocking out a unit in 2 or 3 days, I start taking a month to do 2 figures, and I lose heart at that point. But
that's the problem, Lee, as well. Is that if you're trying to knock out figures, is changing your style and how much you paint and how much effort you put into to get something out there on the table, as opposed to going back and like doing all the shading, all the highlighting, the eyes and the lips and the nostril hairs and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
But with the old group of friends, because I was easily the best painter and I was quick, or as quick back then as I am now, I found that because, like, the club that I used to run at one point, there was, like I said, there's only a couple of people that, and everyone was new at that point. I've been playing for a long while. One of the other guys, Craig, had been playing for a long while. Craig was easily a better painter than me, but he would paint 3 models every so often, and they would be gorgeous. He was a bit like Mike. He'd paint something if it was like it was a character, and every model was a character. So he could do small things, but like a huge army, he'd never finish properly anyway. But when I started playing at Aftermath, I tried to up my game a little bit because I thought, my stuff looks all right, but it's never gonna, win an award or anything here. And I think the more I've played with Mike, Matt, Joel, even yourself, and because we're in our own little group on Twitter as well, there are private chats, we show each other stuff. I'm always upping and I'm always trying to, and I think that's helped an awful lot. And the fact that we're with other people who can paint well as well, and different style paints as well.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
with that though, is it can become a double-edged sword because you need to find a point at which you can say that's good enough.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with wanting to strive to improve and to be able to paint better. But to me, sometimes that can become a blocker in itself because if you're painting an army and you do a test model and you keep going and it becomes this character model, and then you look at and think, shit, now I've got 150 of those to paint. That becomes a blocker in itself.
That's...
There is that bit where you have to have a compromise with you know when you're playing with something more than that kind of 12-figure skirmish type game where you're then getting into kind of mass battle, whether it's 40k, whether it's Kings of War, whatever it is that you're painting, that you have to be able to. It's a different kind of discipline, I guess, of this is as far as I'm going to take it. If you want to invest a little bit more time in your character models, fine. Or again, going back into the olden days when I used to play a lot of historical, the front rank of a battalion of Napoleonic troops would be the ones that were best painted, and actually your subsequent ranks, because you couldn't see all of that detail, you would get away with perhaps not putting quite as much effort in, or you put more effort into the little command group, the musician, the bannerman, and the unit leader and stuff like that.
I used to do that with with Warhammer as well, though. I'd have a red dot under the front line bases, so that when they went into the movement tray, they were the what
they were the ones you'd see as well.
Sometimes you have that's the bit you have to get into. Otherwise, you end up chasing that improvement, chasing that level of painting that you probably couldn't achieve, even if you wanted to, on a full-blown army, and B, you'd never get to fucking play with it because you'd spend so much time on each individual model trying to paint it to, and if we use that kind of heavy metal standard that that would grace the covers of a magazine, I think you've got to have a little bit of comfort sometimes to say, do you know what, that'll do, it looks good. It's only ever going to be seen at fucking arm's length unless you've got to scrutinise it. But the majority of the time, things that are on the table, it's that 3-foot rule, isn't it? And that's sometimes where your cheating techniques come. I'm a great believer in what I call like the impressionist miniature painting, where give the impression there's more detail than there actually is, because when it's over there on the table, it will look the business. Yeah. But actually, it probably doesn't stand up to close scrutiny. And certainly, I think Joel has really.
No, I was going to say
within our group, Joel has really been doing some good stuff around that with the stuff he's been doing with these
flame effect.
Yeah, but it's
it's something that gives a great impression on Mass Effect. If you look at them individually closely, it's nice, but it ain't a complicated technique. But he's found something that looks good on the table.
Because if you think about it, he when he started his Eldar and he done the Tron style Eldar.
Yeah.
And I know sort of there are times when he was trying to finish and bulk stuff out that he said, he was happy with the look and he was happy with the way he wanted it.
He's clearly enjoying this a lot more. Though,
yeah, but I think he was struggling with that. And I mean, when I spoke to Joel about his painting and stuff, because I said I would have tried this and this, and Joel was quite forthright and said, that's brilliant, but I just can't see that well enough now to do that. And I'm, I suppose, lucky in that fact that I'm still able to, I do have reading glasses, but I'm lucky enough that I can paint at the moment, and either my stuff's a lot worse than I think it is and my eyes are worse, or
oh no, because we'd fucking tell you if it looked like dog shit. Well, I've got
2.5 times reading glasses, 2.5s when I paint, because that's what I need basically. My varifocals don't help me when I paint, and my normal eyes aren't good enough, and I need a good light as well. So hence the the sewing light that I bought off eBay many years ago. But I was you were talking about heroes and things like that. I think being fortunate enough to get to Gen Con a couple of times, I managed to get on a couple of classes, and I learned stuff then, and I think what that did was push me to try and paint better. And always, I think in the back of my mind, subconsciously, I've always got a hidden agenda with the painting in terms of trying to learn something new, even if it's a new colour or a new type of paint or just new techniques on the base or just anything really.
Yeah.
Just trying to push it a little bit more, but I don't want to. I do want to, but I don't want to go to that sort of, the Arcanists that I did, which I think is probably some of my best painting that I've ever done, and the Signart that I did as well. I think they were pretty good as well. I want to be able to get stuff out because I'm starting to hit. Sorry, Lee. I'm starting to get to that point where I think to myself, I want to play with painted stuff, and I want to still be alive when I play to paint that stuff.
Well, that's
play with that painted stuff, sort of thing.
I mean, that's what drove me to start painting quicker or learn to paint quicker. But I mean, that undead army I did for Age of Sigmar, the one which was based on. So say again.
Your skeletons and all
that.
Yeah,
and all those skeletons. Yeah, it was based on like an old vampire count army more than.
Yeah.
And
the one you took down when we went down to see Ben at that one down.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you, me, and Rory the boy went.
Yeah, and that I had to be really, really fight myself not to do it. So I only had certain colours. So it was Mike that first sort of talked to me, or he was the advocate of the triangle of colours. So you've got a red highlight and an extreme highlight for it.
Yeah.
And for that army, I had to get to the point of saying, if it ain't holding a horn, hasn't got a banner, isn't the unit champion, or it isn't a character, it only gets the red wash and the first highlight.
Yeah.
I mean, I did 40 skeletons in 5 days. And that's from spraying it, making it, laser cutting the bases, magnetising them, going the whole way through. And they aren't the best models that I've ever done, but they came out nice. And I got the best painted at the time. And no, I didn't actually get best painted at the time, did I? I didn't get best painted for that one.
So I think you got fucking Sportsman or something, which is laughable.
I got Sportsman second and something else. But because it's the guy with the all the sea elves, the underwater elves, whichever, I don't remember what they're called. It's him who he got the best painted.
Yeah, Deepkin stuff.
That's it. And but everything was, and I had to physically hold myself back and say, right, I've washed it, I've dry brushed the skeletons, they're done now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I suppose in a way you set yourself goals of what you want to do, and it's like the Space Wolves. The reason I'm struggling on the Space Wolves at the moment is because of the edge highlighting. I've decided that this army, if I finish it or when I finish it, every model will be edge highlighted, everything will be done. I'll have converted. I'll have done as much as I can for them, especially since I was only ever basing it on like power 50, 50 power for the whole thing. So I thought if I do it small, but I suppose the biggest one for me is it's that little challenges and stuff that we set sort of ourselves, like when we were playing Foe, and you guys banned me from using Earthshade. Or the blacks, don't use this, don't you? And suddenly everything becomes brighter and better again. And I remember.
Well, you said that's the other thing. I'm very mindful of it at the moment, which is why I wanted to do the zombies, because I'm painting a fucking lot of reds because my Adeptus Mechanicus army is red and yellow, and now I'm painting the bloody demons and they're red, and my knights are the matching red and yellow, and all of a sudden I'm like, I probably need to paint something that isn't those colours for a bit, which is why I sort of started picking up on the zombies and thinking, at least, it gives me a break, but it also breaks that mentality that every time I pick a figure up, I'm reaching straight for the reds and stuff like that. So,
but you get comfortable with it, don't you? Like those 3 reds that I said about, I got used to doing them. Mike for Malifaux, his Rasputina crew, the whole point was he said he could never get blue right. Do you remember?
Yeah.
So it was
the whole point of that blue was it was a challenge to learn to paint blue.
Yeah, so paint it blue and call it fluffy. But it's little things like that, and it's like Conrad said about the little speed hacks and things that we learn. And I remember Ben Halford's talking to him one day. We played a game of Foe, and it ended much faster than normal. One of us went down quickly, so Ben played a better opponent the second round, and I went down. And I remember talking to him about painting then, and he said to me, he said, "Oh, I think you're doing this. I think you're trying to fill in too much of the model with the highlight." Do you know what I mean? He said the highlight it's just a highlight.
Yeah.
And so I pulled back on that. I've cut, I've taken on good and bad. The good and bad of different people who've sort of told me stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's
in fairness, that's
how you grow.
A lot.
That's how you grow, isn't it? Yeah.
And again, increasingly now you can get that because actually with Twitter, especially for us, because that's where we live most of the time, but with Instagram and things like that, you've got people that are not only showing their stuff that they've painted, but are more inclined now to share techniques and stuff like that. And again, the number of people that are doing painting stuff on YouTube. And all the way from the Premier, the old Angel Giraldez or whatever, Angel Giraldez, as we say in Norfolk, all the way down to fucking Tommy Bollocks from Stockport, who's done his first one. But you click on it because it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you can't get to sleep, and you've had 2 wanks, and it's still not working. So you're watching YouTube, and you get your little side windows, and you go, "Oh, hello, that looks interesting," and it's just picking stuff up. But I have to admit, the biggest driver for me is what Conrad said. I would quite like to have some painted armies before I die. And I'm coming up on 50. I know you're fucking coming up on 60 because you're even older than me.
Conrad he's talking about.
I know.
But it'd be nice, particularly over the last 12 months where, we've been stuck indoors. Not gaming, and I noticed it hadn't really stopped my hobby spending. I was still spending money on hobby at the same rate, even though I wasn't playing games. And all of a sudden, it got towards the end of the year, and through some various work circumstances, taking a new job that was a slight pay cut, even though it's a promotion. Fuck you, civil service, don't start me on it. But all of a sudden, I had to kind of have a think of, I've got all of this stuff not painted, and I'm still buying stuff. I'm going to fucking die and have thousands of pounds worth of unpainted stuff. What's the bloody point? So that was all part of this coming up on this year and I know it's not a new thing for me. I've always set failed hobby goals. But it was kind of that, fuck me, Speens, you've got to get some of this stuff painted. Because one day we'll be allowed outside again. And I know we spoke about it it came up on Twitter, it was too easy to blow off opportunities to have games with excuses of I'm tired or I can't be asked or I haven't sorted stuff out, and then that gets taken away from you and you can't play when you want to, and I just don't want to be back in that spot. And I want, the thing, me and Not Gay Neil, he's been my regular 40k opponent for the last 25 years, and we've always said our aspiration has always been 2 nicely painted armies on a table with nicely painted terrain, proper fucking something that looks really good. And in 25 years, neither of us have fucking sat down against each other with fully painted armies with decent terrain. So we kind of said to each other as this year was progressing that, 2021, that's got to be the fucking year, because he's now, he's in his early 50s. We've been talking about it since our fucking late 20s, early 30s, and we've not accomplished it yet. If we don't fucking commit to it, we never will. And I just want to be able to sit down with a fully painted army and play a nice looking game.
It was a big eye opener for me last year at the BA with the bolt action stuff, because I did it, and I think it's just. I thought I wanted to get a second army last year, but I didn't manage it. I got a lot of the Uruk-hai painted for Middle Earth as well. I got 2 nice units painted for the Night Stalkers, which are going to set the precedence for what that army looks like. I've got nothing else completed, so I want to finish stuff so that I can put it on the table and enjoy the spectacle. And that means also when something like, for instance, a dystopian comes along, I'll have some space. I'll have a window to try and do some. But even so, I want to mix stuff in as well. I don't want to get bored painting the same stuff. So yeah, all right, let's do a couple of ships or let's do some MCP stuff because it's fun, you know, and interesting, and you get something out of it, you know.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm quite lucky in the way that I've got any game we want to play at the moment. I've got an army fully painted, waiting.
Sorry, what did you say?
I said
I
I've
don't
got.
know. He was running on about something like some sort of fucking bragging twat.
No,
That's what he was doing.
What I was just going to say was, I think that's. But I wonder if that's why I can't actually get off my arse and paint the second Blood Bowl team, because I'm sitting here looking at the first one next to it, painted, fully painted, thinking, well, if I need to play, I'll use that. But you know, 80% of my time when I do it, the stuff I paint, I've sold anyway. But the Imperial Guard and the Death Army, I've kept out of. Well, actually, it's a lie. I sold the Imperial Guard, then bought them back. You know, I've got them, but I wonder if that sometimes is my Achilles heel of why I won't paint the same stuff again.
Yeah.
Even in a different team or a different.
Yeah.
I mean, when the boy was prepared to play 40k, I painted all the Space Wolves. You know, he got a squad of Space Wolves characters. The Dreadnought, I painted them within a week and a half because we were getting ready for a game. Halfway through the game, he's like, "Yeah, this is fun, Dad, but I've just had a message from a friend. Can I go and play Fortnite now?" You know, so I wonder whether for me I paint to play. A bit like what Joel said, wouldn't it?
Right.
You know, when we laughed and we joked and said, you know, Joel could paint armies for people. And he's like, no, the only reason he's painting them is so he can play them.
Yeah, I guess that part of that then is, I mean, you know, Joel often, and I get it, and I know Mike is very much the same when he gets his head into something. It's about painting to the narrative as well.
Yes.
Even if it's not necessarily something that you're going to play with a lot or immediately, but because in the absence of gaming and narrative gaming, you build an army around a narrative. And Joel certainly did that with his undead. Well, I say undead. It's all Wraithy type stuff, wasn't it? His Eldar.
Yeah.
It had that kind of backstory. So, you know, it was almost, even though we weren't playing or weren't playing a lot, the narrative in itself then was driving his hobby. And I think he's got the same thing going at the moment with his chaos stuff, particularly around the demon engines and all of that kind of stuff. And now to a degree with the Death Company, it's painting to a narrative. Mike's doing the same with his cyberpunk stuff at the moment. He's got this idea of it being this 1980s cyberpunk show, and that's spilled over in a little bit into our cyberpunk RPG stuff. Of, you know, it provides him with a narrative, and that's where the inspiration is coming from.
Yeah.
So I guess it's different strokes for different folks. I know certainly I've done that in the past, and I'm doing it to a degree at the moment because I'm once again totally submerging myself in zombie culture again because I bought it. It was a recommendation from a friend of mine called Adam, who has been a zombie gamer for fucking as long as I've known him. We've been into zombie gaming, and he picked up the Walking Dead stuff from Mantic a while ago, and then I happened to find him on a couple of forums, the Facebook groups around some of the varying zombie games, and he sort of said, it's really good. It's a 2x2 table. The rules are really good, which is not always something you hear about Mantic products. But the rules are really good. They're really tight. They work well. They capture the mood. So part of that thought process of this year, and I've found, fuck me, I've got a lot of zombie figures. I keep finding more and more of them in boxes and in varying states. So, yeah, the Mantic ones of the Walking Dead are very much kind of modern Walking Dead type zombies with modern clothes and stuff like that. Yeah. I've got some of the what was it called? There was another company that were Warlord were doing it. Said, well, not World War Z, something anyway. They had some that I think were like the War Games Factory zombies that they did. I think they bought up the plastic ranges from War Games Factory because they picked up the samurai and all of that stuff. They picked up the zombies. So I've got some of those. And then, of course, I've picked up a very cheap box of the initial box of Zombicide. So I've got all of those as well. So I've got fucking zombies coming out of my ears. But
you don't need them all
painted,
painted, do you?
But I'm going to paint them all.
Okay.
Because I've found a zombie flesh technique that's really quick and easy, and again, it gives me something that when I get bored with painting demons or I get bored with painting the AdMech, I'll go,
You
I'm
can
going to
just
paint
do
half a
that,
dozen zombies, and it's almost a bit of a palette cleanser then, just to be able to drop in and do it. So, which is kind of where I'm at the moment with this month's painting. I've knocked out those 30 bloodletters fairly quickly, and I'm still working on the corn stuff. I'm just like, I need to paint something that isn't fucking red for a little bit, for a few days. I mean, I'm working on some blood crushers, which interestingly, funny enough, going back to contrast paints, that give you a really nice red metallic over like a lead belcher spray, null and oil wash, and then I've used the Flesh Terror contrast red over it. And it gives I don't suppose you'll be able to kind of see.
Oh yeah,
No, but
like
you
a dark cherry red metallic.
Yeah, you put a picture up of them before, didn't you?
Yeah. So it gives a nice variation because the bloodletters are done in that kind of Mephiston red, so they are more of a flat, bloody red. So I wanted to do something different with the Juggernauts, so that there is a little bit of difference in them. And again, it's as quick as fuck. Spray them lead belcher, Nolan wash, pick out the red, and then do some gold trim. And they're done enough that they look good on the table. And if you squint at them in a dark room from far enough away, they look pretty good.
Yeah.
But it gets them done, and it means that come the end of lockdown, my goal of kind of half term in February or the end of February, getting that whole army done, there is a chance I might do it. The issue is I'm burning through all the easy stuff. The bloodletters are going to be dead easy to paint. The flesh hounds will be dead easy to paint. But then I've got 3 of these big bastard things to paint with one model, so that's really going to eat into my net painting rate because it will take me as long to paint him as 10 bloody bloodletters.
But you'd be able to use a lot of the techniques and stuff as well, though.
Oh yeah, it'll be very much the same technique, which is spray it Mephiston red, give the whole thing a coat of the contrast paint. That's the other thing I've been using the Black Templar contrast paint as, to get that kind of graduated colour, because as you go to the feet and the hands and the end of the horns, it's going towards a black.
Yeah.
So all I've done is use that Black Templar, and I put a first coat on, which gives you almost a semi-opaque black, but then put a second coat on kind of halfway further down.
And
you almost get that red to black
yeah.
graduation, but without having to wet blend or use an airbrush or any of that sort of thing. So it gives an impression of that technique, but with none of the investment in time and certainly none of the investment in talent I don't have. I've got neither the patience nor the talent to do all that wet blending type shit that clever people do. But it gives an impression of that as a really cheaty thing. And I'll do the same on that, and it'll work fine.
I saw a really good video on the wings because someone was painting, doing a similar sort of thing, and they were using contrast paints as all the washes. And what they did was they got one of the wings, and it was red, and then they'd painted like a fleshy colour on the wing.
Yeah.
And then all they did is they got a bit of the medium for the contrast, and they painted that sort of in the middle like a V of the the bit of the wing, and then they painted the contrast in on the centre, and then just blurred a little bit into where the contrast was or the medium was, and it made it look really sort of
Well, that's almost like doing a wet blend on the
it's
miniature.
Like a blend,
But he said that was a one blend with 2 pots or 3 pots of paint, base colour, and then I think whatever the Gilliman flesh. And he said, it takes a little bit of time, but he said because there's the veins in the wing, you can do a wing, an arch at a time type thing.
Yeah.
And he said, all you got to be careful of is when you do it, you must let one set completely dry, and then flip it over, because if not, it pools through.
The pooling.
Or rub or whatever.
But I must admit, there are so many quick and easy techniques now. Right, before we go too much further on, just because I'm about an hour, 40 minutes past where I should have taken a painkiller, and I've also got quite a lot of blood in my mouth.
And we also said this would be a short little thing.
Yeah. To anyone who has made it this far, obviously...
Well done.
Yeah, well done. Hopefully you'll have seen our links in Twitter, and we'll have all sort of posted bits and bobs to it, and so will the other two. Originally, the first show was put on my YouTube account.
YouTube.
There is a Grumpies YouTube account which we'll link and I'll send to the guys once this one's up as well. But there's also a Twitter, and the Twitter was, Matt?
Grumpy Tweets.
At Grumpy Tweets. And I haven't got a bloody clue what the YouTube one is because I've got to actually do some more work on the YouTube channel bit first. But I'll put a link up and we'll go from there. And there's a Facebook page as well. I think Mike started, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think there's a lot on it yet, though. But...
No, I think we were still building that one. The idea is that this one will be on my YouTube and the Grumpies YouTube. And what I'm going to do at some point is I'll do just a quick little third episode or 2A and just saying that, you know, from now on, that'll be the last one on mine, and it'll just be on Grumpies then. So we'll have to direct people there for it.
Maybe we'll get Mike and Joel to join us next time, eh?
Yeah.
That depends. In fairness, it seems gone quite smoothly without them chipping in with all their shit.
Yeah,
and we've got an episode with Mr. Mike Hutchinson at some point to talk about his new game that's coming out.
Billion Suns, his new Osprey game, which I think is now up for pre-order. Because I got an email through from North Star, I think, telling me it's up for pre-order.
Yep.
So a space fleet combat type game from the writer of Gasland and Gasland Refueled.
Yeah, and bless him, Mike's just bought all my Star Wars Armada ships, so he can use them for.
Oh, you managed to offload your stuff to him, did you?
No, I didn't offload it. He asked.
So you overcharged him for it?
No, would I overcharge for miniatures?
Yes.
Don't answer. No, so bless him. Yes, he's got that, so that'll be an interesting one. Because, do you know, after cutting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Gasland templates in different sizes, colours, you know, all the official ones for when Mike was doing it, I still haven't played.
You don't know what you're missing.
I played a couple of games when we did DAFCON, when it was in beta, for the want of a better term, pre-release. I have got both the original Blue Book Osprey and the refueled hardback, but also haven't played it in the wild, so to speak. I think I had one game I went to... when I was down in Canterbury Way with Joe, what's-his-face, that we used to play foe with down there, Joe Wood.
Yeah.
I went to his local club and there was a little game of it being played there. I've still got the urge to play it with 40k Orc stuff though and have Orca Morca.
That'd probably be really good.
Yeah. No, I must admit, it's one of them ones that I wanted to have a go at. I've actually, my boy got quite annoyed because I liberated a couple of the cars out of his collection of toy cars. He's not used them for years, but...
The thing is, I wanted to do it in 28mm because all of my post-apocalyptic stuff is 28mm, and I didn't really want to go through that whole rigmarole of doing a separate set.
Yeah, because
I mean, I know there's not civilian like pedestrian rules and all that kind of stuff, but
there are zombies, though. There's zombies.
There are zombies, but then I could use the same vehicles for 7TV Apocalypse and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to go through all of that thing,
because Joel's got a full set of 40k sized.
No, have I? Because I got you to cut them for me. I've still got them.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, you cut me a set.
Oh, cool.
I got them cut. I wouldn't get them cut at 200%, like double or 230%. I think sort of double 20mm size.
Yeah, no, it was the thing. I remember it was a huge chunk of perspex to cut them out of. But no, I must admit, it's one of the ones I always wanted to look at, but I never got round to really.
It's good. It's really good fun. It's a really good fun game to play. I remember when we first started it at the club. I think we had 2 or 3 sessions at the club, and we couldn't get past the first lap. Everyone was like dying, and then we found out after you read the rules a bit
it does help.
You realise that you're not meant to start shooting each other until after one lap's completed. So you've actually got, a bit of a running order at that time. You can start seeing stuff happening. So once we did that, our games were obviously better because it was like, so what are we missing here? There's a bit of a... We're not even... How are we going to ever finish the first lap, when most of us are dead, But then once we'd found that out, the games were really cinematic's probably the best word, and a lot of fun. It's really, really a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And that, and certainly that for me is where it's about now. It's about throwing something on the table for 2 hours and just having a fucking laugh.
Yeah.
I'll tell you
I
what.
think we're going to run a campaign at some point when we're out of this, though, because Adam, who's done a lot of the cards and things like that, he's one of the friends of Gaslands, and I actually think he's involved with the new game as well. He's made some brilliant cement barriers and things like that, and he's used this technique where he's reverse printed stuff onto an inkjet printer and then slightly wet it and put it onto these barriers so that they look like faded post. They look superb, absolutely superb. Such a simple idea and technique, very much like reducing the magazines and newspapers that you put me onto for the MCP stuff. But I'm looking forward to playing our first proper game of that as well.
Yeah. Always reminds me of years and years and years ago when GW first released the plastic Eldar jet bikes, the Vipers and stuff like that. They done one of the White Dwarfs. They did a game, and what you did is your ships only moved fractionally. So like you had like a 5-inch boost, or you could move a couple of inches, but all the scenery moved. 6 inches down the
I remember
ball.
playing some Dark Future games like that, where with the rolling road idea. The car stayed. You had a relative pace that the scenery was moving, and your car would move up or down the road depending on where you were relative to the pace.
Essentially, you'd only have like 2 or 3 road sections on for Dark Future, wouldn't you? And you'd be taking the one up at the back, putting it in the front, sort of thing.
Yeah, and these trees would go flying down. The trees were flying down the table.
Yeah, no, I must admit we did one of them for one of the Games Day events, and that was a good laugh. Right, anyway, Jen, I'm going to have to wrap it up because, like I said, I've got
your hot disk's full up.
No, oh god, no, that's a good thing. It's more along the lines of the fact that I've been sitting there thinking I should have had a drink really because my gum hasn't stopped bleeding properly yet.
I'm going to go and have a quick StarCraft game before jumping in the bath and going to bed.
Is it worth me do I download it and then play it online?
Well, StarCraft 2. Let's put it this way, Matt. I don't play a lot of PC games, and when I enjoy something, then it's either weird or it's okay. And I think StarCraft 2's obviously comes with its own pedigree and set of following. It's very much like Total War and everything. I've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it, actually.
Yeah.
We didn't mention my game again. It was free on Battle.net as well. So I've played my son a couple of times, and the 3 of us have played together as well. We did 2v1 here. I've really enjoyed it. But Blood Bowl League, unlucky Joel, but it was...
Blood Bowl League.
Oh, no,
Blood Bowl League gone.
Should we do an impression of Mike and your game?
Well, we got 2 turns in, and I'd injured 3 or 4 of his players.
Cut him off now. Just cut him off now, Lee, and say bye-bye.
And he flipped the table and kind of went, I concede, and then went off Twitter for like an hour while he pouted and sulked. In fairness, we have conversed since, and he has created a new team and apologised for his conduct, but it was funny as fuck. And then we went to have a second game, and in the first 3 turns it was going the same. I'd knocked his men down and was injuring them, and then I got a little bit complacent, if I'm honest, and he beat me 3-2, I think it was, in the end. But then I played Lee, and old super power gamer Lee, who was top of the table.
Plays a lot of Blood Bowl.
Plays a lot of Blood Bowl. Plays in a lot of leagues. Got stuffed by Spoonie's fucking Chaos Dwarfs, though, didn't he?
Oh yeah, I know, but that was close, though.
It was a good game. That
it was one of them ones
with the right outcome. I feel a bit like Australia and India's Test match. Good game, right outcome.
I'll get you next time.
Oh, well, that's my alarm to go to bed now. Look.
How is it? Is it time to go and empty your bag?
Right, well, bye-bye. Thanks very much, gents. Thanks for anyone who has watched.
That's just leaked all out on the floor anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You should tuck it in your wellies, I've told you before.
Right, on for that, I'm going to stop recording now, so say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.